Hi, everybody. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. I've been really diving in deeply with a live webinar because the Eating Peace process happens to be starting May 1st recently, and looking and sharing and talking about some core underlying beliefs or perspectives or stories, the way we're looking at the world, that keep people struggling with eating, certainly kept me struggling with eating. And I thought I'd just share at least the first one with you today, which is believing that whatever's happening in your environment, and this is really interesting, it's very global. It doesn't necessarily have to do with only food, eating, or your body, but believing that whatever's happening in your environment is an emergency. It is urgent to get past it, get away from it, shut it down, have it change. Whatever's going on, and you can fill in the blank of whatever it is. And I know that's a huge, huge core belief, but just let's consider it and look at it today. Because some people will think, so whatever's going on has to change. This is bad. I do not like what's happening. I'm frightened. I actually have an anxiety appearing within. We all know what that's like. Everyone's got that experience from time to time. It's just the nature of noticing an urge or a belief, like even a commitment, to avoid that feeling and to make that feeling go away, to shut that feeling down, but how here it comes and it arises. Urgent, emergency, emergency. So I can relate to the feeling of having like whatever I'm looking at or the experience, even with food and eating, feel like an emergency with a simple craving. So that's one aspect of it, right? You look at it. I've had a thought or an image in my mind about getting some food. Like, oh, quick, got to get some food. And then having it grow and pulsate and get louder within. And it seems like the only thing that will stop that feeling of emergency, urgency, craving, almost desperation for the thing is getting it, eating it, finding it, like consuming it. People know what this feels like. It's really kind of like what we call the addiction process, right? Compulsion process. We often refer to it that way. Something feels like very, very, very compelling. And of course, this doesn't only show up with food and eating. There's that craving. It can be with so many other things, smoking and drinking and fantasizing about that person or getting together with, that person, or which could be sexuality or attraction or just dreaming of it. Crushes feel like that. And so many other things. We all know what those are like. I've had the experience of feeling compulsive about work, like not being able to stop somehow. And it's kind of a lower lying sense of momentum kind of working. And I've looked at that and seen it more obviously, like, wow, how did the time pass? And it's 11:30 p.m. and I'm still working on my newsletter or making the plans for something in my business. And I've caught that and inquired. But it's kind of a similar feeling. Might not be on such a level, and I might not be damaging myself in the way we often experience when it comes to substance compulsion, but it doesn't feel that great. All right, so it's in a subtler form. It can be from a scale of 0 to 10. If 10 is just like wild adrenaline happening where you're just responding to an emergency, and 1 is like barely low-level anxiety, it can happen anywhere in there with compulsion, right? Okay, so you have the picture, the image of the food or eating. Here's what's really interesting, and one of the most profound ways to consistently and then deeply change that reaction? Is there something before the urgent feeling around food and eating, or I must lose weight immediately? There is an image or a feeling, an actual feeling of adrenaline or slight anxiety or discomfort about something else. And it can be about your body, it can be about food and eating, but really interesting to consider why. Why am I looking at that? Or what's happening here? It's okay if I don't even know the full answer. Like, just look. All this stress is happening inside this person here, this body. The chair I'm sitting in is not stressed out. And actually, even in this body here, my feet are not really worried about going and getting that food. Neither are my hands. But my head sure is, my thinking. And I know it feels very obsessive. I gotta go eat that. Of course, these ideas appear especially around foods that are factory engineered to be incredibly crave worthy, right? We know the ingredients of these things, and it's fine. If we're not against that, it does seem to exist in this reality. People are making those kinds of foods. Those foods can be eaten. It doesn't make you drop dead instantly, so let's not have so much fear, in a way, and judgment about what's going on with those foods over there. It's just noticing how it feels in my body to have the craving and have the urgency and that emergency. I remember the feeling of I just cannot stop this wave from engulfing me. It is driving me nuts. I remember working with a young woman not that long ago who was having a thing with chocolate. And she would be at work all day long and continuously get snagged by this, like a thorn getting poked by an idea about chocolate. And her belief was, I should not have it. I should never have it. I don't want that thing in my head. I don't want to be thinking about chocolate, which of course often increases the resistance. But this idea about an urgent experience begins to build, and she would feel like every day at the end of her day, like after 5 o'clock and she's leaving the office, she would go get chocolate. That's what would happen every day. And then she would work really hard on applying willpower and control to preventing this chocolate activity, this movement. But it would feel like it would build and build, and she tried to calm down and not think about it and get involved with work, and then there it was again, like obsessively coming back. And I remember that feeling. So how interesting if we just first let it be there. So if you have that urgent experience about food or eating, just letting it be there. Now, and when you notice that something's allowed to be there and it's not killing you or destroying you or making it so everything's wrong, just simply noticing and looking, it brings it down a notch often. There it is doing what it does. There's something in the mind that's really interested in spotlighting this thing. Sometimes there's a movement away from something else. Something else is going on. I encourage people to consider other places that they feel adrenaline arise or an emergency experienced in their reality. People have such a huge range of things that they've been feeling. This young woman with the chocolate thing was so unhappy at her job. And she was bothered by at least 3 people, and one of them was her boss. These are amazing areas to then inquire into, to do the work on, to do the work of Byron Katie, to sit with your thoughts about what those people are thinking of me and what's happening in this and what's dangerous I mean, really let yourself think about what's dangerous instead of the way we usually say, it's not really dangerous. What's wrong with me? Which is the second mindset kind of story that I share in the webinar that I was just mentioning. Something's wrong with me. So to take a look at those, and if you have a thought, there's so many things that I've been afraid of and that I've been challenged by, I can't even get through them, that is a stressful belief in itself. Don't let your mind necessarily go there or question that. Question that. You might not have control over your mind going there. Just question it. So there was another woman that I also worked with not long ago who had a tremendous experience of grief of her partner dying unexpectedly. And almost a year of working through that grief. Images of being in the hospital. Images of saying goodbye unexpectedly. And this was floating in the background of an incredible feeling of urgency around eating on a daily basis. Eating her grief, eating instead of seeing those images and those pictures that had challenged her, and feeling kind of betrayed by reality, by life, by what's happening. And there are so many amazing concepts to question in that experience. I need that person to be alive. I cannot handle the grief of this situation. I need food to help me through whatever it is. In this case, a matter of life or death. I just noticed that I would have this urgent feeling about food, and really there was urgent, uncomfortable, nervous feelings, anxiety about other things, about people. So, where do you begin so you don't even feel overwhelmed? What is wonderful to notice is in this moment to question, I am not safe right now. Because here comes I have these images in my mind, and here comes the nervousness, and then I have images of food and going to get something to eat, and here comes more nervousness. It's whatever you want to call it, but that energy that is really out of fear. There's fearful energy. Oh my gosh, I just had so many, anything but fearful energy. And it would be like the resistance. I had so many beliefs about fear. You shouldn't show it. You should be courageous. You should get over it. There's something wrong with me. The stories just blossom and blossom around being someone who is afraid. And what was funny is when I ate kind of frantically or had that as my go-to or my goal, like I know, I'll go get something to eat. Then I would feel like, okay, a little bit calmer. I've got something to do. Everything's okay. Sort of a strange sense of relief around having this project or a plan. I'm going to go consume something. I'm going to go get something. I'm going to go ground myself with this food. I'm going to go get something sweet to make my thoughts a little bit sweeter. It's only working temporarily when you do that, so it's very unsatisfying. Although it is frightening, it is much more satisfying to consider anything that you've been quite afraid of, anything that has caused urgency or emergency in your life. What does that remind you of? What have you experienced that you're holding? How do you think about the world where it feels unsafe? And I know there's a lot of places some of us feel unsafe, but you can just start with just one unsafe relationship or experience. Relationships are one of the best places to ever take a look at that. It's my contact with other people. I mean, the world too, hurricanes and acts of God, as we call them, and things that we feel completely unable to control. But often those are a little less, though they're very important. They're important to look at. Those are usually less of what we are concerned about on a daily basis than contact with other people. So I have found that to go there, even if I still would feel afraid if there was a hurricane coming, or a tornado, it is so much less and so much more ease is available to me from doing the work on other frightening things, places where I have felt betrayed by reality. So a sense of urgency goes down. But even if it feels kind of overwhelming, or you don't necessarily want to take a look immediately, just noticing right now in this moment. It's for everybody. The belief, I am not safe. Is that true? Can you absolutely know, absolutely, 100% with no shadow of a doubt that you are not safe? I can't know it because so far, every situation that I've ever felt was threatening or perceived as threatening, I have made it out alive because here I am. So there is not an absolute truth about that one not being safe. And that would only be assuming that death is the ultimate lack of safety. So even if I died, which is total mystery and unknown, can I absolutely know it's true that wasn't safe? Kind of interesting, right? How do you react when you believe you aren't safe today, in this moment, in your experience? What happens when you believe in the lack of safety? I ate. I would also recently work. I would work. I'd push towards that. And not stop. I'd override a sense of relaxation in many situations. So who would you be without that story? I am not safe in this moment. And it's okay if everything has still ever happened to you, and all those difficult and hard things, they happened. But just noticing right now, to make it very simple, just to make it easy and simple. Right now, who would you be without the thought that you are not safe? I find it very exciting, mysterious, but like that anticipation of something wonderful. This is wonderful here. And even if you don't have that because you're alarmed or worried about something in your life, just notice what those things are and just narrow it down specifically, and you can still sit like a meditation with who you would be without the thought that you aren't safe. Turning the thought around. I am safe. I'm safe in this moment. Food can be the way it is. This body can be the way it is. People can be the way they are. And I'm safe. I can find examples of how that's true. Industrial food is being made right now at this moment, right? All those foods that are full of cravings. My old favorite, bit o' honey, that isn't really a favorite anymore for many years, is being made. And I'm still safe. I'm safe in my thinking. It's only that turnaround in my mind that I am not safe when I begin to feel adrenaline and worry. My thoughts are not safe. My thinking is frightening me. I have images and ideas, and they produce feelings that are frightening for me. And I get a little anxious, or a lot anxious. And what do I do when I'm anxious? I used to want to eat. Eating. That was my go-to, because it felt very much like I was in control of something, and I was nurturing myself in some way, grounding myself somehow. And of course, that wasn't in the end true, because then my thinking would attack me. So who would you be without your story that you aren't safe? So that urgent emergency story. Question it today. Just notice the safety of where you are and your life in this moment. All right. Let me know how it goes. Bye, everybody.